All right, welcome to today's live. We're officially live from the area code 713. So in case you're wondering, that is out here in Houston, Texas. I like to say Texas like that. Don't know where I got that from, where they say everything's bigger out here. Originally from Indianapolis, and trust everyone had a eventful Thanksgiving where you were able to eat some. And curious for those of you who are on here, what is your favorite dish when it comes to Thanksgiving? Mine is stuffing and also sweet potato pie. Love that sweet potato pie. So go ahead and comment below what is your favorite dish that you do have. And today's topic, what we're going into, which is by far one of my favorites, is real estate negotiation. So start this off. Go ahead and put that there. And man, this week has gone by so fast. And of course, it's a short week for most people out there. Earlier today, got a good boxing session in. So working on my 1-2s. So right here, got to stay in the stance. You see the head movement there. You got the sways or the slips. And you got the roll unders there. So always working to be better. And boxing is just one of those things that I've picked up and truly have enjoyed it. It's like one of the things that I've experienced, like riding a bike again, that I'm thinking of, okay, I got to have my hand placement here. I've got to bobble my head here. Okay, my footwork. And sometimes I tend to overthink it. And I'm asking the coaches over and over certain different questions. So, yes. But let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. If you're just now coming across me, yes, the name is Sterling White, buy and hold investor, born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, not so good parts of the city, single mother, fraternal twin brother. Some people say we look alike. I don't think so. He's as dark as Wesley Snipes. No, just kidding. He's not that dark. And almost lost my life at 5 years old due to a stray bullet. And just growing up in that setting is you never knew that you would be able to make it to the next day. Got started in real estate 2009. Ended up shortly after that, bought my very first deal, 23 years old, no money out of pocket, and then scaled to 150 single families, and then started buying multi-family property in 2017 and scaled portfolio to just about over 500 units. So that's just a little context on myself. Those of you on here, go ahead and comment below and let me know where you are from. And then also, what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish? So let's go ahead and jump into the topic for today. I know we're rolling right on into it. Is on real estate negotiation tips. So going to give you 6 tips today, just a tip, no pun intended. So the first question that I have for everyone is what type of what is that? What type of situation does the seller need to be in? So this is the number one question to really start off with, is to ask yourself is what is the type of situation or the type of frame of mind that the seller is in? So that's the question I have for you. And I'm just going to go ahead and answer is that there has to be some form of motivation and reason why they're selling the property. Because if you're trying to negotiate with someone who is willing to sell the property for the right price, give me an offer I can't refuse, and additionally on top of that is, I'd sell for above market. And if you decide to not buy it, is I'll just go ahead and list it with the broker. Is that is not your ideal seller in that case. And so I had someone, they submitted an offer to an owner, and I said that and they submitted an offer. The owner's offer was well above theirs, and they asked me the question. They said, "Well, how do I get them to come down?" And I said, "Well, there's one way, but you could go to jail for that." If that person has no motivation, there's really no reason for them to come down. Is that wherever they're at in prices, they'll just continually just stick there. And I'll give you a prime example is that when someone came to me to purchase one of my properties, is they gave a lower offer for it. I said, well, not in the market to sell, so thanks for your offer. So that's as simple as there was really there was no negotiation, there was no counter on that because there was no motivation to really sell the property. So that's one of the first things is that there has to be some motivation, and that the person has to have some problem to be solved for you to now go in and provide a solution to them. So I'll give you a case study of an actual deal. Where is this? Buck Ridge. And while we're reading that off is we've got Julie here that says her favorite dish is sweet potatoes with brown sugar, pecans, butter, and marshmallows. Yes. Great to see you, Aaron. He's got eager is his word for today. So let me go ahead and give you an example at Southport. There it is. And so we're going to go ahead and go into the first point when it comes to the negotiation is that it's everything is negotiable. And it doesn't have to just be price. It doesn't have to there's so many different things that you can actually negotiate. And negotiation isn't even just in business. It's actually in life too. So this is a skill that I would say as just an experience share that you need to have in your back pocket. I'll give you a prime example with my daughter, Kinley. And just imagine me with a full head of hair down all the way down to my back like Tarzan. That is my daughter, Kinley, is that I have to negotiate with her. And I remember times that I would say, hey, Kinley, you have to go to bed. And I know you guys have also, if you have kids, and Kinley's the only one that I'm aware of. There could be some other ones floating out there. Doubt it. But is that I would say, hey, you got to go to bed at this specific time. And then she would counter back at me and then say, no, I don't want to go bed at that time. So now we're in negotiation where I have to say that, one, I could just simply just put my foot down in that, or I can go in and actually negotiate, which it's gotten to a point where she'll say, hey, Dad, actually, if I do this, this, and this, could I stay up a little bit earlier? And sometimes I'll say, well, yeah, if you're willing to do this, but go ahead and add this on top of it too. So that's what I mean by everything is negotiable. Or let's say if you've got a significant other and you want to go to a movie where there's a bunch of people, an action movie, and she wants to go see a romantic movie. That's going to be a negotiation in itself with now you got to sway them and, hey, I'll rub your feet or whatever you decide to do in your relationship. So that's a negotiation too. And how this works so that's what I mean by everything is negotiable. And I'll give you a prime example on the very first deal that I acquired, Garfield Place apartment. Here we go. So this very first property here that acquired when shifted from single family to now multifamily. I'm going to do a screen share for you up here. So this is Garfield Place Apartments where, and I'm going to go through just how it was all put together is that this is the property that you see here. So originally had called this. So when you looked at this particular property it was very distressed. The signage here, it was actually formerly known as it was Southview Apartments. And then the parking lot looked like an alligator's back. And now it looks through the winter months, it needs repair. Have since sold this property, but it was just very bland when you would look at it. And then actually this property across the street that's now been fully renovated, it was completely vacant. And there was multiple people who actually purchased this and tried to go through and execute the business plan, but just could not. But just to fast forward the story on this is called Chris, who was the owner of this property. I don't even know why I gave his name out, but it is what it is. That stays between you and me on this on the other side. I'm just dropping names. I didn't drop his last name. There's tons of Chris's out there. But first called him. All started with a cold call direct to him. And that's how I always start, is taking the direct to owner approach, because right now just buying deals on market, as many of you have experienced, is very highly competitive. So I've always taken the direct to owner approach. And so with this is I actually ended up driving past it, similar to what you see I'm doing here, drove past the property, saw it needed work. All this information is public record. So ended up finding out it was owned in an LLC, then skip traced the LLC, And there's different databases that you can actually use. And I'll show you one, which is called Open Corporates.com. So if you look at this website, you can type in just about any entity, for instance, completely free. So by you guys going to search a entity using this platform, I don't get a kickback or anything. So not affiliated with it. This is just one source that you can use to find if it's owned in the LLC. So ended up finding out is who now filed that LLC, and then Skip tries to find their contact information, which another source that you can actually use. Let me pull that up here. It's called True People. Let me see here. True People search. Let me okay, let me put this up for you. True People search. People. I don't know why it's not coming up. Search. There it is. So yeah, this is another database. Once you've got the person's first and last name, hopefully it's not as common as John Smith. That would be very unfortunate. And you could just simply type them into this. And then that's when you get their contact information. And then that's when you simply reach out and give them a call. So on this particular property, gave Chris a call, and it took a couple attempts just to get in contact with them. But then from there, is it turned out this was his very last property that he was looking to sell. Bling, that's a sign of motivation. As soon as you hear that, he had already sold his other ones. Second is this property was about 60% occupied, and he was the Google reviews weren't that good. So being that's another motivation. And then thirdly, he was wanting to shift from being a operator to now a debt collector. So that is 3 motivations. But let me go ahead and give you another one. The fourth one is that this was his very, no, I mentioned that already, is that he formally tried listing this property and it ended up expiring because it didn't sell for actually what he needed it for. So that is 4 motivations and actually uncovered many of that on the first initial call. So fast forward through this, ended up getting the property under contract and then walk through. So there's some units that are way back here. Let me see if I can put these. There should be some images here. So let's see. So all the way back here, there's this building that you see my little cursor on that was completely down due to fire damage. Unfortunately, no one died, luckily. That one of the residences was cooking chicken and it just got way out of hand. And just it burned down the whole side of that building. So we ended up walking through it. Also the decks during due diligence. So in essence is we had to go back to after due diligence, we uncovered some items. And at this point is we actually had to go back to the seller and say that, hey, we actually need to renegotiate our original offer because it no longer makes sense. What I see people most take is the angle that, hey, I just need a reduction of the purchase price. Yes, you can take that, but you can actually be more creative than that. There's so many different angles that you can take when it comes to this. And that's one thing that I've learned. So in this particular one, instead of we would negotiate seller financing due to them being motivated. And what that was is the purchase price on this property was $900,000. Yes, $900,000. I know we're in Indianapolis. Some people in California are thinking like, what? I can't even buy a duplex or just a regular house for that much. But yes, this property was 46 units and it was 900,000. Had to put quite a bit into it. But with that is we negotiated that, hey, it's going to be difficult for us to get financing on this. Would you consider seller financing? So yes, they own the property free and clear. And in essence, provided a loan of $700,000. And I had to, and when I mentioned there's a team involved, both me and Jacob, and there's still a team. Shout out to you, Jacob, is that had to put $200,000 down to acquire it. So that was one form of negotiation that was able to get seller financing. And then 2 was able to negotiate the interest rate. And this is again that instead of going to the purchase price, because that's what he was pretty much settled on, is that, okay, this is the price, I'm going to stick to this. All right, well, let's go ahead and negotiate the actual interest rate. So that was one of the things that we were able to get lowered. So we were able to get a 3%, 5%, and then a 7% because this was on a 3-year term. But I tell you, I kid you not, that once we wanted to get to squeeze them even more on that negotiation, and I remember showing up to his office, knocked on it, and one of his associates came to the door. It was like it was a little weird how they answered the door, but it was like a dungeon or something where we walked up there and the guy was like he was like peeking and all that. He's like, yeah, this way. They're like, all right. So we went and followed him and we sat down, both him and I, across from Chris, and we're squeezing them on that interest rate to get it down to 3% over the course of multiple years. And guess what? As soon as he's about to say yes, you guys, that's when, let me go ahead and shrink this here. That's when the wife came in. We heard in the other office, oh no, you better not do that. And then she comes in and says, no, we will not accept that. So we knew from that who wore the pants in that relationship. So that is one particular deal where it's their price, your terms in essence. So everything is not negotiable. So we've got the next here, which is not just about price, that you want to appear flexible. And this is just one of the avenues that if you're and that's why many people give a lower price, a lower price, and then they come up, because if you give your best offer right from the jump, from the get-go, and you don't come up anymore, you're not flexible on any terms, that will end up, not having you appear to be flexible. So it's much better if and I'll give you a prime example. This was another property that was Buck Ridge at Southport, which is an 80 unit in Indianapolis. Let me pull that up for you here. And actually just sold this. And that's another thing I want to mention is it's all about you make money when you buy, basically. So this was another deal that was actually purchased direct to the owner. And those of you, if you want some help in critiquing and further understanding where you're currently at to where you want to bridge the gap, and more so if you want to decide to take the route of going direct to owner, there's going to be a link below to schedule a strategy session, which will be with myself or someone on the team to really provide you an action plan on that. But this is Buck Ridge at Southport here. Let me see if I can show you some roads or anything. Okay, it probably won't do all that. But so this was another negotiation, of which that it started out that we started very low, of the purchase being about 2.85 million, somewhere around that. And the owner was about 3.8 or about 3.7, 3.8 million. And then we ended up coming up and we ended up meeting at 3.35 million. However, and also with this, that the 3.35 million was actually a little bit more of a stretch for us as far as the purchase at that time when we were underwriting it. And then we said, okay, well, we'll come up from where we were originally at, and then we were still stretching. And I would actually say the owner was closer to about 3.6. And then they ended up coming down to the 3.35 million. We had to come up even more. And we said that, hey, your roof is a little bit questionable. Of course, we didn't say it like that, but we learned from previous experience that, and this was a 180 unit in Cincinnati, Ohio, IO is what you would say. Those that are from Ohio, is that knew the roofs were questionable on this specific deal. This was the 118 unit in Cincinnati, Ohio. However, still was light on and said that we would be able to patch the roofs. That should learning lesson. So we ended up getting through due diligence, paid about $10,000 for that. Got roofers up there. They said, no, there's no way I would feel comfortable patching these. All these need to be replaced. Blew out of her budget and ended up going back to the seller to renegotiate. And they said, no, not having it. I told you from the beginning that was going to be the case. And he stuck to his word. He ended up finding someone else who ended up paying more, which it is what it is. But on that is knew that on this particular deal, Buck Ridge at Southport, that we assessed that right up front and said we will not go under contract unless you actually replace the roofs, which is exactly what the seller ended up doing. One thing that we should have done and put this in the actual agreement was how he replaced the roofs, which he simply did a overlay versus a tear off, which the tear off lasts longer. But either way, the property is sold, and then the amount of layers there, they could have did by them doing the overlay, it wasn't not out of code or anything. So that's one thing I want to mention is that one, their price, our terms. So they ended up coming down to 3.35 million. We were actually about 3.2, and we said, okay, we'll come up to the 3.5. However, we want you to go ahead and replace those roofs, which he was able to do because he had his own crew. So he was able to do it at a very affordable price, and he didn't do the tear off, which was actually preferable. So that is the second is everything, or actually we talked about everything is negotiable. And then now we talked about appear to be flexible. So if we started out at 3.3 million, or let's say 3.2 million, and he was at the 3.6, and then now that is the most we could have gone at. And he's saying, hey, could you come up a little bit more? And we're like, no, we're actually not. This is actually our top dollar. It's best to start, from my personal experience, in starting lower and then being able to come up versus giving your best offer, especially when you're in a highly competitive situation. That is a little bit different. But on this was dealing actually direct to the owner. He had some select few buyers, but more so was actually dealing directly with us. And the case is, if there's multiple buyers that are in place, then in that situation, it's more optimal to actually put your best offer up front, and then likely you're going to get the highest and best that does come up. And then they'll say, well, could you give your highest and best? Well, that was actually my highest and best, but you guys know how it is. So that is the point. Appear to be flexible. The next tip, just a tip, is buyer has more control the further along the deal goes. And I want you to use this at your discretion, because this can actually get you in trouble by you knowing this information. So everyone that's listening on the YouTube, yes, you right here, I'm pointing right into the camera. Luckily, it didn't throw off anything. As far as like the visual, is that what I mean by the buyer has more control along the deal. And shout out to Grant Cardone on this knowledge on this particular point. And negotiation as a whole is that by the buyer having more control in a deal, as the deal goes along, is that if let's say you have 30 days due diligence, 90-day closing, and this is what most people will do, is they'll actually go under contract on the deal at whatever the seller wants, because they want to retrade or renegotiate at a later point, because they know about this tip, and because it's a lot more of a pain at a later point in the deal process, as far as the closing, for them to now back out of the deal, for them to back out of the deal, and then now find a new buyer. Because many times they've notified their team that, hey, we've got buyers that are looking to purchase the property. Some residents may start to pick up on this, and they've been more invested into it. So from that is, a buyer has more control, and this is why they'll wait 15 days, 10 days, or some people actually do it at the closing table, is they'll renegotiate the offer. I don't believe that's very ethical in that. And when you do this, and if you're known to do this, then that's when you'll ruin your actual reputation. But this is just one tip to have is in your arsenal bank, that I would say that you have more control the later stages of the deal. At the beginning, the seller actually has more control, because they could just back out, and especially in today's environment, just go ahead and find someone else. So that's one thing that has been an absolute game changer for me. use that or that knowledge, but use that, of course, at your discretion, because I don't want anyone on here to be known as retraders. That's not something that you want to have, and people will not want to work with you. Because I'll give you a prime example. Let me go ahead and pull that up. This was 810 North Linwood. This by far was the worst. And this was a single family house that was in. Let me go ahead and pull this up so I can show you the visual on this property. So this was North 10 Linwood. It was a pretty cute house. And this was in Indianapolis. This was one of the first single family. This was maybe the 9th or 10th or somewhere around there properties that ended up buying it. Originally bought it as a rental, and then got someone in there that was going to do to rent to lease, or I forget what you exactly call that, but they had the intentions. All their payments were actually going towards them actually buying the house. It wasn't a mortgage or anything that was on it. I'm just drawing a blank on the specific structure of that, but in essence is a lease to buy. There we go. And so we ended up getting someone it went under contract with an agent. So the agent was actually representing themselves. One, they were already nitpicking at the purchase price. And then there was a small reduction of that. And then as we got further along, is they were just as if they were buying a new house of everything that ended up coming up. So we kept fixing this, we kept fixing that. And then finally, we thought everything was going to be done, and it was pushing towards the closing table. And then, boom, they dropped the bomb and asked for, I believe it was something in electrical. I forget what it was specifically, but the way they nitpicked at just about everything. And I want you to repair this. I want you to repair this. And then it was a fence. That's what it was. It was a fence. Something of that nature. But in essence, it ended up at a later stage, came up. And it was one of those deals that we ended up, unfortunately, losing money on. It ended up losing money or very close to break even. But I would say just a little bit under breaking even. And we decided that, okay, well, we've put all these upgrades and repairs up to them. We have increased the value of the property. But do we want to go through all of that again? So that's just a prime example in this case of an actual property that on the other side, as a a seller, and knew that, never want to deal with that agent again. And then also, if anyone asks me what is their personal, what would you recommend this agent as far as working with them? No, because that was not a good experience. And if you're nitpicking on someone, is you also want to make it a win-win situation, or as much of a win-win. I know we're all capitalists, majority of us, and you want to get a good deal, but also, if the person on the other end feels as if you got over on them, then there could be some remorse. And then let's say they have other properties, they won't want to work with you again. So that's one that I wanted to allude to on that buyer had more control as we went later into the actual the process of taking that to closing. And then they just came and dropped the bomb and said, hey, I need this repaired. It was more of a larger repair. And we decided, okay, well, we'll just go ahead and do it and just be done with it. All right. The next that we have here is the multiple options scenario. This is my favorite actual technique to use. So this is the fourth point of the multiple options. And this is when you get a little bit more creative when you're doing the negotiation versus just saying, hey, I need a reduction of the purchase price. So this is Dunwoody Court, 80 unit in Louisville, Kentucky, or Louisville, however you want to pronounce that. So this particular property has ended up it needed quite a bit of work. It was increasing the rents by about increasing the rents $95 on a per unit basis, and that's blended across all. And it needed quite a bit of work. It was about 60% occupied. And so just fast forward is ended up getting through the due diligence, and about $300,000 worth of work was uncovered. because one, that the decks needed to be repaired significantly. Actually had to build some of the decks because they were just unsafe, is what the inspector said. And then we had to send our inspection report over to the lender, and they said, yes, we're going to provide a loan on this property, but yes, you've got to address those sooner rather than later. Let me see this. All right, perfect. Appreciate that, Aaron, on that. Good stuff. Need to get plugged back in. Always great to hear from you, my man. And yeah, so this ended up uncovering about $300,000 worth of work that was not foreseen up front. So also another thing is that I see another common mistake. People negotiate just to negotiate. One, I'll tell you that the real estate is very small. It's a small industry. There's only a select few of people that are actually doing deals, and that are the well-connected and people that you want to know. So if you're constantly someone who's renegotiating, that will get out. Brokers won't want to deal with you. Other investors won't want to deal with you, likely. Sellers, or what is it? Yes, sellers of properties won't want to deal with you because they know you're just going to get the property under contract and likely just renegotiate. So, and just going back to this, why I mentioned that is this was uncovered and had no clue of those unforeseen repairs that needed to be had, which were the decks. There was some subfloor issues from a foundational level, nothing too concerning, but it was about $300,000 worth of work. So ended up going back to the seller and saying, hey, Bill, so it's Bill Jr. and Bill Sr., great guys, by the way, and said that, hey, a option is, and this is what I mean by the multiple option scenario. The first option, Bill, is that we'll move forward at the agreed upon purchase price, which was $2.25 million for the 80 units. Yes, very affordable. And this is, again, is going direct to owner. So you're able to get more of a deeper discount oftentimes. And because you're not dealing with it being listed and then people all from international as well as across the country. But just going back to this is said that, hey, this is can move forward at the agreed upon purchase price. However, you've got to take care of this, this, and this, and this. B option is that, hey, no problem, Bill. These are unforeseen. We actually always send over the inspection report. That way the seller can see that too. Hey, these were some items that came up. You know what? We'll take care of them. However, we're going to need a credit at closing for this, and it'll just be $200,000. And then the last, I would like for you all to guess, what do you believe the last option is out of the multiple scenarios? The first one being, hey, we'll stick to the agreed upon purchase price. You take care of the repairs. The second is that we'll take care of the repairs. However, we need a credit at closing for that. And then the last C is to walk away. Yes, which is just simply we put it in an email format, that a mutual release, which a mutual release is just a mutual release from the contract, which is walking away. So that is the multiple option scenario. By far, that has always been, that has always been one of my favorite go-to strategies to leverage, because it also shows, this goes back to one of the initial tips that I mentioned earlier, just the tip, is that you're showing your flexibility, and that, hey, and also giving them different options and ways that they wish to go. So this is one of my go-to strategies, and I don't even just use it when it comes to business. I've used it in other real life actual cases too. And if you all want some good books on negotiation, one is Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Go ahead and comment below if you've actually read that book. And the other is Trump Style Negotiation. Not getting into politics, you guys. Don't even get into politics here. That's definitely not where we're going into. Trump Style Negotiation is a really good book, and by far one of my favorite ones that actually gives some real tactical. Chris Voss gives some tactical information when it comes to negotiation, but that Trump Style Negotiation really gives some tactical ways in which you can negotiate deals. Ship Jumper here. Leave it on the table and walk away, and they have to secure another deal. Yes, that is correct. Great to hear from you, Ship Jumper. Trust you had a fantastic Thanksgiving, my man. And yeah, so the option that they ended up going with was the B option. And I remember when Jacob actually gave me the call, and he was very silent on the other end, but I could hear, and I was thinking, did they accept it? Did they not accept it? And he was just very quiet. He was messing with me. He's like, can you guess which one they ended up going with? It was very silent. And he said, yeah, they went with B. And I was like, yes. Because he was hesitant on doing that. He did not want to include the C option, which that is, most people don't want to go that route, but that really shows the person on the other end that, hey, we're very serious in negotiating this. And if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't make sense, what I've learned is not to try and force the deal, because there is abundance that is out there. So let's go to the next point, which is the last but not least. Let me make sure I got 2, 4. I got 5. I know I've got something else up here. There we go. I skipped that one. The next here, let me go ahead and we've got this. There's another one I'm going to go ahead and add here for you too. Identify value approach. There we go. All right. So, man, my spelling has been off. So this next is identify value approach. It's actually identify value creating approach. But within this is that see how you can deliver value to someone as a way to, you can leverage that in your negotiation as well. But it's just one of those things that they've seen that, okay, this person has helped me so much that I'll end up going with them. So I'll give you a prime example is that Dunwoody Court Apartments, well, it was formerly Bentwood Apartments, but I ended up rechanging it to Dunwoody Court Apartments. There's this 80 unit that's actually in Columbus, Indiana, and I've been following up with this guy 3.5 years or so, of which when I follow up with them, one of the ways that I did was, hey, XYZ, I was going to drop his name like I normally do drop, but I said, is there any way that I can push some value your way? I know that you mentioned you had someone drive, because the last time I spoke with them, he actually had someone drive into, not on purpose, of course, or at least I don't think so, but drove into one of his buildings. So ended up, he's got brick, and I asked him, do you need someone to help as far as masonry? And he ended up saying, nah, I'm pretty much good. And he always just says that as a way just to he just mentions that he's always good majority of the time. And I said that, yeah. And then he ended up calling me shortly after that and said, hey, I actually want to take you up on that offer. And he actually, when I first got started in real estate, my roommate's dad, who the construction company I actually was involved with, was in masonry. So I ended up giving him the contact to my good friend. Shout out to you, Alex. I call him AP. I ended up giving him his contact information, and he actually ended up using them. So you just have to consider that, well, awesome. If once he does decide to sell this property, because again, it's been about 3.5 years, that he'll still have me as an ideal, and I've created that value for him. Even if not, still enjoy helping another human being. But that's one way that you can leverage, versus so much if someone decides to not move forward in selling their property to you, that you're just done with that. You're constantly following up. Now you're just selling your property. Now you're just selling your property. Is to identify ways in which you can provide value to them. And not so much, and this is what I would say that'll really separate you from everyone else, is if you identify the value that you can push to someone ahead of time, versus, and I get it all the time, if someone says, hey, I just want to reach out, how can I provide value to you? I get that question all the time. And yes, it's a great question. However, it's from just it's overplayed now, I say. But if you go above and beyond and say that, hey, Sterling, I know that you mentioned on one of your streams or something that you were looking to grow your YouTube channel. Hey, here's some suggestions that I have for you. Some thumbnails. I can actually do your thumbnails for you. The keywords on the back end, that will really put you ahead of the crowd versus saying, hey, just want to call you and say, how can I push value your way? If you go above and beyond, that'll really separate you from everyone else. All right. Great to hear you, Etsy. I'm a bit late. Yeah. And as mentioned, we got Julie earlier who mentioned her favorite Thanksgiving is the favorite Thanksgiving dish is sweet potatoes with brown sugar pecans, butter, and marshmallows. Would love for you all to comment below. What is your favorite dish? Mine is, as I mentioned earlier, stuffing as well as sweet potato pie. Love that sweet potato pie. I always got to say it like that too. Sweet potato pie. All right. And let's go ahead and get into the last point, which is just simply sticking to your numbers. And this is one that can be hard for most, and I would say hard on myself. I remember on several deals, especially when you fall in love with the property, is that you just got to stick to your numbers. If numbers don't lie, as I think Yo Gotti would say, numbers don't lie, or something like that. But is that by sticking to your numbers, you can remain objective and not overlook any red flags. And with that is, you know that you're just not negotiating just to negotiate. You actually know that, okay, this is where I actually need to be. And let's say you start lower and this is my break even where I cannot go above that, because that will start to be in a case where I could be in a negative cash flow or I'm not able to get the desired return to my investors. And this goes back to the deal that I was mentioning, which was the just under 120 unit in Cincinnati, Ohio, that I remember that went back even after the contractor said that, hey, there's no way that we're going to be able to patch these roofs. We're actually going to have to replace all those. It was done. It blew out of the budget. And however, went back to it and said that, okay, this is going to be the cost to repair all those roofs. However, I think Cincinnati, Ohio, the rent growth is actually going to be a little bit more over the next coming years. The rent that we have here, we can push that a little bit more. Our renovations in other areas, we'll actually push that down. We can actually get it done better than that. No. When that happens, red flag. And luckily, both Jacob and I looked objectively and said, this is exactly where people get in trouble. And I spoke with a larger property management company out here, and this was one of the dilemmas that she said she has to actually turn down investors as clients on these larger syndications that they're putting together. Is they're wanting to compete so much that they'll go back to the property manager and say that, hey, these are the rents. Can you be able to get is that now I have to, they're calling for a highest and best now, and I've got to resubmit an offer. And this is where I believe the rents I can actually push them up to. And the property managers, like the company's like, no, I do not want to take on that asset because we will not be able to get that and would not want to put ourselves in those situations. So that's another prime example and where most people get caught and not just sticking to their numbers, because numbers don't lie, as Yo Gotti would say. Not John Gotti, the guy in the mafia, but Yo Gotti, the rapper. So, all right. I appreciate everyone so much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Any leftovers that you may have too, if you have some, go ahead and send them out here to Houston, Texas, because especially if you have some, as Julie mentioned earlier, some sweet potatoes with brown sugar pecans, butter, and marshmallows. That does sound yummy, but I don't want to eat too much sugar, because if I do, I will get very jittery because I don't eat sugar at all. I mean, of course, the regular foods that do have sugar in it, but I don't go out and buy candy bars. Every now and then I'll actually go out and get ice cream though, but it's probably once per week, and I will indulge myself. So, all right, everyone, appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and upcoming weekend. I'll see you next week at the same time, actually 12 o'clock. Today we did 12:30. I was a little bit behind on another meeting, but next week, moving forward, 12 p.m. So keep being awesome. I've got this quote back here that you see that says, "You are the creator of our destiny," that we decide in life. And this is just one of the beliefs that I've picked up on, is that I know there's so many different things that are out there that we encounter in life, pandemic, or man, hopefully YouTube doesn't flag my video by me saying the pandemic, but all these different things, the printing off of all this money, which quite a bit of inflation is coming. But either way is that if you still want to decide to go somewhere in life, it's up to me. It's up to you on the other screen versus playing the victim mentality. Because I could have easily, being a kid growing up in Section 8 housing, single mother, going the path that I was going, which was a not so good path, and my brother ended up following down that same path. I decided that, hey, I could take a different path in life, and I can actually break the chain. And that's what I decided to do. And still to this day is I know that if I want to go somewhere, it's not up to anyone else, whoever happens to be the president. Yeah, they say all these things and that they're going to do it. I'm not getting into politics, but whoever's in office it's whatever they end up pushing down to what is the society, whatever the case is, that I'll still have to figure out a way to navigate it. So that's what I mean. Everyone, I trust all is going well. If there's any way I can assist you with where you're going, or you just need a second set of eyes on something you're working for, or someone to help support you, that's what I'm here for. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And also, strategy session, link just below. We're on that call. It goes more into where you're currently at and where you're looking to go and how to bridge that gap, and calls anywhere between about 30 to 45 minutes, where at the end you would have an action plan of the next steps. All right. So we got JS mentions turkey. Yes. Love turkey. Can't go wrong with that. And appreciate you, my man, Christopher Buck. And lastly, by JS Investment Holdings, said that Jay-Z said, check the scoreboard. T number, don't lie. There we go. Dropping bombs. All right. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you.